Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Podcast Juice. My name is Michael Dean. You're listening to the podcast on Prince. And joining me today, we got a special guest. He's been on the show a couple of times. Let's give a warm round of applause to Phillip Lassiter. Sir, how are you?
Hey, I'm great, man. Thanks so much for having me back.
Oh, absolutely. It's always a pleasure, man. You came on originally, it's like a few years ago, I believe.
That's right.
This was actually when Prince was still with us.
That's right.
Yeah, man. Gosh, I remember that. Yeah, that was awesome. So, you're one of these guys, and let's just put it out there so people that don't know, Phillip has played with Prince. What were the years that you were with Prince's band, Phillip?
2012 through 2015, officially.
Wow. And you played, what all the instruments that you played in the role there?
Well, my role in the band was, I was the horn arranger, so I was writing a lot of the arrangements that we were performing with the 11-piece horn section, and I was part of the team that put that section together, called the players, and put it together, and I also ran the rehearsals of the horn section and taught everyone the arrangements, but my instrument is trumpet.
Okay. One of the things that always stands out in my mind about the time you were there, when Prince would do Old Friends for Sale, and the horn arrangement that you guys came up with, that was just so I was like, wow. It was just so awesome, man. It was just like one of those, because that song in my mind always has a very symphonic, if I can say, value to it to me. I just picture this bombastic symphony thing, and then just the way Prince plays it, and you guys just brought a whole different, even grander vibe to it, it was phenomenal, so I always salute you for that.
Yeah, man, that was a lot of fun with that horn section, man. There was a lot of work that went into it, but it was worth it, as Prince would say. It was worth it,
If I can ask you real quick, and before we move forward, and we may have talked about this before, but just talk to me a little bit about just that sort of that rehearsal space time, so what is it like when you're working with Prince and coming up with these different ideas? How did that process work back then with him?
When we first got to Paisley Park, we didn't know what to expect at all, and I had some really intricate arrangements that I had written for him, and I knew that I was going to need time to communicate exactly what the arrangements entailed to the players. Even though everybody's a great player, it just takes time to get a section tight together. We were two sections coming from two different places. There was my section coming, a lot of us coming from the East Coast, New York area, and sprinkles from Dallas and Nashville, and then they had the other section was primarily coming from North Carolina. And so we put two sections together, and it was going to take time for us to gel. And so I was a little concerned that we were just going to get thrown on stage and into the moment, and there wouldn't be time for that, nuance. But Prince was way ahead of me, and he put us in a room for a week. I think it was at least a week, maybe a week and a half before we ever even met him. And let alone got on stage, and he just let us hash it out, and it was so beautiful because he just I know he was listening in, but one day he popped his head in, we didn't know, and there he was, and he just said, "Sounds good," and then he ran out.
Wow,
that was it. And we laughed, man. We were like, that's "Whoa, crazy. Prince! It's actually him." And we had been rehearsing for days and hadn't seen him. And so then, we began the rehearsals together with him, and, he had a lot of specifics that he wanted. And so, there were times where I remember there were weeks even that it was 8 to 12-hour day rehearsals. And the whole 20-piece band was just as quiet as a mouse. And Prince and myself were dialoguing over the arrangements. And it was awesome, but it was really, really intense just because he had such a focus and a poise and a work ethic that I did not have. I got to be honest with you. Like, I was coming from like the studio where I kind of worked on my own schedule, and, you know, I wasn't working 8-hour days or 12 or let alone 16 sometimes. I was, you know, I work a few hours a day, get my work done and move on. And so this was a whole new kind of challenge for me. And then his level of focus and intellect was just like next level. And I felt like I had to match that because, you know, you want to impress the boss. So I had to focus for hours, and we would like literally no one else communicating, just me and him, like for hours. And he would be putting me on the spot, like, you know, voice this out, make, you know, write this. Like, I was writing for the horn section on the spot in front of all my peers. And it was especially challenging because, you know, with 11 horns, you have everybody's not in the same key. So your different instruments are in different keys, and I didn't have a piano in front. I played a little piano too, but I didn't have one in front of me. So I had to figure out real quickly, like, how do I do this and execute it without like making a mistake, you know? Because again, you want to impress the boss. And so I realized I had to do it by ear. And so I would point at each player and go, you, beep, you, beep, you, beep, you, beep. And they'd write their notes down. And then Prince goes, let's hear it. And then we hit him with it one time. Bam! We hit him with this, you know, this big stab. And he fell on the ground and just laid on the ground like we knocked him out. And the whole band had a good laugh. And then he got up and just kind of like shook it off. He was like, oh my, oh my.
Let me ask you something on that. Some of the things you just said. Was it like a thing of, because you said you wanted to impress the boss, and I imagine, and this is Prince, like he's super established at this point. He is a thing unto himself, right? Like there's a bar there. Is that a thing for you guys as the musicians? And I don't want to use intimidated, but did you know, like, yo, this is Prince. We have to step our game up. This is one of those opportunities you don't get. You know, was there a lot of nervousness? Like, man, you got to be ready when he walks in the room, that type of thing?
Yeah, I think so. There was a lot of respect there. So we wanted to be, you know, everybody was super respectful to him. And he was really respectful to us because he saw how hard we were working and how competent we were, and how he heard how good we sounded. And that made him very pleased. And he had a lot of faith and confidence in us. So we had a really good time. But yeah, I mean, I think for myself, I was pretty stressed out on the gig, just not because he made me feel that way, but just because I made myself feel that way. I was just, you know, wanting to do a great job, and, you know, and just, I also, you know, for me, I remember I wanted to exceed his expectations. I wanted to blow him away. I didn't want to like hit the mark. I wanted him to be like, whoa, you know, even if it was just in his own mind, he didn't have to come out and say it, but I wanted him to think, wow, this is even better than I expected.
Okay.
You know, because horns is my specialty. I mean, you know, Prince knows a lot about horns, and he can mix the horns, he can arrange the horns, he can play some of the horns, you know. So, but he brought me in for a reason, because I'm a horn specialist, and he was specifically looking for an arranger because Michael B. Nelson wasn't available to him, and so that's kind of why I had a shot. And so as a specialist, you know, I wanted to come in and be just that and just take it to that level. Because, you know, he told me when we met, he said, you know, my father used to talk about giant horn sections in the 70s. Like, he's like, at this point in my career, Phil, he's like, I don't really feel like there's anything left that I need to say. So if I'm going to say something, it's got to like be something I'm really interested in. And to be honest with you, I just want to hear it. And I was like, right on.
I remember you said that before. That always stood out to me, that comment. Yeah, that's awesome. And also, aside from spectacular stuff with Prince, let me also give you props. I mean, you have, was it 11-time Grammy Award winner? Is that what?
Participant, yeah. I've been an arranger, string arranger, horn arranger, trumpet player, awarded 11 times.
Okay.
As an arranger on records that have won Grammys.
Gotcha.
Artists like Tori Kelly, Kirk Franklin, CeCe Winans, Fred Hammond.
Man, you just rolling these names off, but with some of the, I see Timberland here, Roberta Flack, Jill Scott, Anderson .Paak. That's one. I love that guy. Or if I'm saying his last name right, he is so dope. Al Jarreau, the Isley Brothers, Anthony Hamilton. I mean, you have worked with pretty much all of the top people in the game, man. Like that's incredible. That's
some
incredible.
of my favorites for sure. Some of my favorites I've been able to be on stage with, and going back to what I was saying about being stressed on Prince's gig, I think not totally. I certainly enjoyed myself, but I think looking back, I wish I would have just kind of like enjoyed it a little more and been stressed a little less. And so when I got to play with the Isley Brothers after my stint with Prince, I remember doing just that. Like where I'll be on stage and I'll be looking over the music and feeling a little stressed because I didn't have much time to prepare. And I remember just being like, remember Prince. This is the Isley Brothers, man. They're, Ron is getting up there, and who knows how many more shows they got in them. I'm not trying to be, negative or anything, but it's just a reality we all face, and I'm thinking this could be my last time playing with them. Who knows if they'll, if I get another opportunity. So I just breathed it in, man. And just like, I had the best time playing with them.
Just kind of be in the moment of it. Right.
And that's kind of how I try to be now, with everything.
Wow. Well, speaking of being in the moment, you have a new album coming out. As we were recording this, I think it is going to be dropping in a few days. Yes. Live in Love. Tell us about this album. What's the new thing with Phillip Lassiter with Live in Love?
Man, after Prince, my wife and I moved to Los Angeles. And we lived there for about 5 or 6 years. And while we were there, we developed a wonderful pool of musicians and artists, singers, and talent. Artistically, and it's such a rich, thriving place. Prince loved it there. His career kicked off there, and so I started working with this great engineer. His name is Ben Burgett, and he has a studio in Van Nuys. And so I was working with some of my friends from Prince days, Xavier Taplin, Dominique Xavier Taplin, and who played keys in the Prince the jazz group, right towards the end, and my friends from Snarky Puppy, and friends from Earth, Wind and Fire and Stevie Wonder's band, and so we got together and we just started recording. A great musician also played with Prince, Mono Neon. I'm sure you know Mono.
Absolutely,
he's on the record. And so we got together and we recorded a bunch of songs I'd been writing, and on this record I have the first single was my Prince tribute, and it's called Make America Love Again, because Prince was pretty politically minded. He wasn't afraid to say what was on his mind, and this song, musically you can hear the Prince in it, but I think thematically the narrative there is something that I think he would have been on board with. It's a civil rights song, and it's a fight the power song. But it's positive. It's a positive vibe. Make America Love Again. And
I gotta listen to this.
That one first.
Okay, I gotta check that.
Yeah, that one's. Yeah, man. And with every song, there's 10 songs. I filmed everything, so every song has a video, and there's 4 out right now. There's Make America Love Again, and then the second one we dropped If you don't mind, I'll just rattle this off.
Sure, no, go ahead.
It's called Sugarcoat Me. And this is just a fun song. It's kind of like innuendos. It's like, sugarcoat me. Baby,
Okay.
tell me what I want to know. Make it sticky sweet. You're my favorite
you
treat,
go.
right? I've got an affection for your sweet confection. You know what I'm saying? So, like, Sugarcoat Me features an amazing singer who is a background singer with Erykah Badu. And he's growing fast. He's just an incredible personality and vocalist. His name is Durand Bernard.
Okay.
And so he is featured on that song. And then the third single we dropped was a women's empowerment song about men who in position of authority that take advantage of women. And this song we wrote around the time when the R. Kelly scandal came out. And it's called Baba Yaga, which is Baba Yaga is Slavic folklore for this witch that goes around getting revenge on evildoers. And so this phenomenal singer that I met from D.C., Howard University graduate Mariah Miche, she was in my band in L.A. and we featured her on this. She's like a Esperanza Spalding kind of jazz singer, and this is like a really interesting mashup of sounds because it's like jazz and hip hop, and there's a jazz vocal quartet that's kind of we're singing, the four of us are singing in the style of D'Angelo. And then she's doing this Esperanza thing, but there's this Dilla thing happening, and it's like our masterpiece, man. It's wild, a wild ride. It's called Baba Yaga. And then the fourth song we did is a song that's a tribute to my son, which we wrote when we were pregnant with him, and it's the title cut. It's called Live in Love. And if you don't mind, I'll tell you real quickly. What happened was after Prince passed, the Montreux shows were put online, right? Mm-hmm. And then shortly after, this legendary Latin artist, 70 million records sold, 22 Latin Grammys. He started following me on Instagram and interacting with my posts. And I knew who he was because I listen to Latin music. My wife is from the Caribbean. That's all we listen to is this guy. He's like the Michael Jackson of the Latin market. And his name is Juan Luis Guerra. Okay. And so I flipped out. And so I started messaging him. And he said, yeah, man, I saw the Montreux shows. And I said, who is this guy that wrote these arrangements and put this section together? I got to know him. And he's like, you teach me the funky horns, I'll teach you merengue. Wow. And so here I am again with an international superstar. And we become friends. And I'm like, hey, you want to sing on the record? And he's like, yeah, I would love to. Mind you, he almost never does collaborations. Wow. So we got Juan Luis Guerra singing a duet with my wife Yosha for our son Arrow, and the whole thing, as I don't know if you remember what I told you last time, was I met my wife because of Prince. Okay, right? Gotcha. I met my wife on tour with Prince when we went down to Curaçao and did the North Sea Jazz Festival. So this whole relationship between my wife, my son, and Juan Luis Guerra all comes together on this song "Live in Love," and Prince is the common thread here.
See, I love hearing stuff like that. And first of all, let me say, man, congratulations, blessing. That's a hell of a way to meet somebody like that. Him seeing the work, being impressed by it, following you, and then just that whole vibe. But, to hear how the lineage of, you came just by working with Prince, and then just, the way the universe sort of works, man. And like you just... The connection, the thread just keeps sort of weaving itself through. And that's one of the reasons why we do this podcast about Prince, because it's just like, of all the things you can say about Prince, one of the things you can say what I think is great is he's connected people on all levels, whether it's love relationships, friendships, musicians, just whatever, man. And so I love to hear stuff like that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, man. I was able to introduce Prince to my wife and thank him because I told him, I said, I met her on Curaçao, and I just want to say thank you, because if you hadn't hired me and seen the potential in me, I would have never met her. and he grinned and he just shook his head like yes. He didn't say anything. He just grinned like this. It was like he was saying, "You did good, kid." Because if you've seen a picture of my wife, she's like way out of my league, right? She's this beautiful, ebony goddess, just like. Just incredibly gorgeous, Apollonia looking like,
You blessed, brother.
Man, that's the look he was giving me. You're blessed, brother.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
It was such a cool moment,
Man, that's amazing. I wanted a couple of things. So going back to the album, and definitely want to check out the song. What was the song? And it had the name of the like this spiritual god avenging thing or something to take out.
The Slavic folklore. That's Baba Yaga. B-A-B-A.
Baba Yaga. I gotta hear that.
Yeah,
and that's an interesting song, and what you said it's about, and a lot of the stuff here has very timely themes. And I wanted to go back to "Make America Love Again."
Yeah.
So I'm curious. You do not. I take it you don't live in the States now.
I do not.
What is your thoughts?
I left in July.
Yeah, what's your thoughts, man, on America and what's going on? We're not going to shift too far, but I'm just curious to make it motivate you to write a song like that. I mean, how do you feel things are going out here?
Well, I was never really political, and then Donald Trump became president, and I started paying attention to things more, and and feeling like I needed to voice my opinion more, and feel like I needed to have an opinion more. And I think a lot of young people, that was a good thing. That was one of the good things that came out of him becoming president, is that a lot of young people and a lot of people that just weren't political became political and at least started voting, and started talking about it and spreading awareness. And so, that was a big part of it. And with my Party Crashers record, I did a record, Filthy Party Crashers, and we had a song called Bump the Man, and it was very, very straightforward, how we felt about the situation. But so this is kind of like along that line, but it's a little less Bump the Man, a little more Make America Love Again. So
okay.
I felt like things were getting pretty intense back last summer, especially after George Floyd. And my family's mixed family, and my wife is from over here in Holland and the Caribbean. And so and the pandemic was happening, and we just didn't feel like we needed to be in LA for any reason. So we decided to come over here and take a break. And it's just been wonderful. But I've been keeping up, from across the pond and staying involved. But, I'm hopeful for the future. I'm really hopeful. But for now, I just feel like I can be more creative and at peace over here.
Okay, I got you. And like you said you have a mixed family. And, I always like to try to connect with fathers as a father myself, and just really understanding what it takes, or at least trying to learn what it takes to sort of be the father of the family and guide and contribute. And there's just so many things nowadays that we have to shield our kids from, explain them, and different things. And I want to ask you this question because I don't really get to ask this type of question, and if it's too uncomfortable or something, I can totally respect that. But I'm curious, you being a father and you have a mixed household, do you have to have, how do you have these conversations? I don't know if you have any sons. I'm not sure their ages, but I'm sure you must be thinking man, I don't know how, if they identify as black kids or mixed kids or whatever it is, but whatever it is, I would imagine there has to be, some kind of conversation or thoughts in your mind of, I see what's going on, particularly in the States with black men and boys and things. I got to make sure my kids don't, not that they, not to say fall victim, but, just be cognizant of their surrounding or of the world there. Is there any of this conversations or thoughts in your mind?
Well, yeah, man. And I appreciate you asking me this question. This is a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
And I'll just be really, really, really candid and just open, I've been white my whole life, I can't change that. Didn't choose it. But it's a reality. So there's a certain amount of empathy. There's only a certain level of empathy that a white person can have, or understanding that a white person can have for, what Black and brown people go through or have gone through and go through. So, I realized that's a reality, but it didn't really hit me until George Floyd. And there was something significant about that happening and it happening after, yes, I have a son and he's 2. At the time he was 1. He just had his, no, I'm sorry. He was almost 2. So he was 2 and he's going to be 3 this summer. And it was intense because I was faced with this reality that I had never experienced before with my daughters, because my daughters are white. And so I had this realization that, like, I'm going to have to explain to my son one day why he can't get away with the same things that I can get away with. And like how careful he's going to have to be around police officers and just in public in general. And then my wife started, and my wife was like, now you understand how I feel. Like, now you understand, like, why I be telling you all the time, like, Phillip, don't do that. You're being too loud, or you're bringing too, what are you doing? Like, and I'm just like, ooh, walking in my white privilege and not even realizing that that's what it is. Because I was like, what? Police, they're our friends. Yeah, they're here to help us. Whatever. What's up, homie?
Right.
No, it's like, and that was a eye-opening time for me, and it was really, really heavy. And so that was one of the things that made me want to leave for a while, and it definitely helped me understand myself a lot more and my privilege and my upbringing. And that's just an ongoing thing that I'm trying to deal with myself. It's funny you bring that up. You bring that up because, like, my son, my wife is teaching him, like, okay, mommy's brown, and Papa's over here. They call in Europe. They call the dad Papa. They don't say daddy. They say Papa, which Papa. I kind of dig it.
Yeah, that's kind of flash.
Yeah, and Papa's white, Mama's brown. And Arrow, my son's name's Arrow. Arrow is nice. Light brown. And for some reason, I don't know why, but Arrow's white. Arrow's white. And my mom keeps saying, no, you're light brown. And so today he's like, I said the same thing. He said, Arrow's white. I said, Arrow's dark white.
Okay, dark white. I can do that.
Yeah, we're trying to, balance the scales a little bit.
Well, you say he's what, 2.5 or 3?
Yeah, he doesn't know what he's saying.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful time, that age too, man, where they're just like so expressive, free, and just soaking up everything, like sponge. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, man, I appreciate you answering that. That was great. Thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to ask you too, and this last year for creatives and musicians has been tough. Like, I know how it hits the regular person, but we can still sometimes go to work or, but for the musician, like, then they just close all the venues and, all of that. So I'm curious, like, how, what was your last year like, with this pandemic?
Well, I got to say, I'm quite blessed because, before Prince, I was in the studio just recording and arranging for albums, mostly working at home, doing a lot of remote recording. And I was one of the first trumpet players and arrangers on the scene, in late 90s, early 2000s to do remote recording of horns. And just do it all myself. So I had honestly, I had almost a 20-year head start on this whole thing. And so that's how I make 90% of my living anyway. So
Okay.
what happened was, everybody was at home, so a lot of people were finishing projects, and I found myself really busy last year, and that was an incredible blessing. And then, but then this year happened, and things have slowed down because now people are getting back to their lives and playing again. So, but that's okay because I'm focused on my album release.
Okay. Wow.
So I gotta say I'm extremely blessed for that and extremely grateful that for me I didn't have to, aside from the emotional aspects of it, I didn't get hit hard financially or creatively.
Okay, man. What the power of the internet, man, and really taking advantage of that, and not letting it stop, our bags and our professions, and so I absolutely salute you on that. That's great, man. Man, so
well, thank you.
The new album dropping. I assume it's coming to all the streaming platforms. Is it going to be a physical release as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. The record drops this Friday on June 4th, and it's called "Live and Love" under my name, Phillip Lassiter. There's going to be physical copies, CDs, and vinyl.
Oh, okay.
And that can be found. My website is philiplassitermusic.com. And those should be available. I believe they might be made available on Bandcamp. I might want to double check that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But they can get all the links from your website?
Yeah, the links should be there. I'm going to make sure that they're there after this. This is a good reminder. The vinyl CDs are, yes, they're available. The vinyl CDs will be available at Bandcamp under, Lassiter Phillip is what it looks like. Live and Love. That should be able to search for it there.
Well, cool. And everyone's going to go out and check that out. I'm kind of getting back into my vinyl kick. So I'm like, maybe I get the vinyl. So I like to hold it and just have it and all that. Yeah.
In the vinyl, and this one's going to be special because I actually signed a deal with a label over here in Germany, and they have a really great process and a company that they work with closely with out of Germany that is like one of the best for vinyl pressing.
Okay.
So it's supposed to be sounding really great. So I'm stoked about all that.
All right. Any plans to get back on the road, taking this thing? Is that kind of coming up yet?
Well, not coming up yet, but we have plans. There's always been a European tour in the works, and then everything happened. But we're hoping for late this year or early next year. I'll hit cities like Amsterdam, Paris, London, Barcelona, Berlin, Cologne. And then hopefully, some stuff in the States, Los Angeles, New York, and maybe even perhaps in Latin America, since we're hoping that this thing really takes off with the Juan Luis Guerra song,
Okay. Man, you international. That's what I love too, man. I'm like, he's not staying around. He's all over taking it, man. That just really makes me understand that there's a world out here. We got to go see it.
And people tend to appreciate musical music. You know what I mean by that? In other places, like in Europe, especially, and in Asia, than they do in the States, unfortunately. But they appreciate it more, maybe because it's more rare. Kind of spoiled in the States, like everybody can play.
See that. Yeah, I can see that.
So,
two last questions, fun questions. Hopefully. The first one is, who would you love to play with or play on their album or tour that you haven't already, dead or alive? Who would be like?
Not too many people, honestly. Not to sound like, some kind of way, but I'm just ready to play my own music, to be honest with you. But if I had to say someone, I would say one of my greatest influences is is a man named John Hendricks. He's like the greatest jazz scat singer of all time. He's the voice of the show Schoolhouse Rock.
Really?
That scratchy voice? Yeah, that real scratchy voice.
I love Schoolhouse Rock. Which ones did he do? I gotta know.
He was the guy, the black singer, jazz singer, like soulful singer, and he had the scratchy voice, kind of deep baritone, and he was the baddest cat. So he was in a band called a vocal trio rather called Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross. And this is some of the greatest music you'll ever hear, in my opinion. If you get on any like YouTube and just go to town on Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross and really dig in. This is like the beginning. There would have been no Manhattan Transfer, Singers Unlimited, or nothing like that if it hadn't been for Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross. They were the greatest to ever do it. And John Hendricks was like the greatest scat singer ever. He's passed now, but he lived into his 90s. And I never got to meet him, but that's a cat I would have loved to have met. And of course, all the greats, from Earth, Wind and Fire to Stevie to Bob Marley and all of them, fortunately I did get to meet Verdine, and I have played a jam with Stevie one night in LA. I didn't meet him officially, but it's all good, just getting to be around him in LA. I was around him a few times. I was around Quincy a few times. Just being around him, not really having long conversations, but they heard me play. That was cool.
Man, that's sometimes all you can ask, man. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's really where it's at. I mean, for me, honestly, where I'm at right now, I am playing with who I want to play with because they're my friends and they're some of the baddest cats in the world. I mean, Mono Neon. Who's badder at bass than Mono Neon?
For sure.
That's kind of how I feel. Like I feel like so grateful for the collaborations. I wanted to mention one more collaboration because it has to do with Prince. On this record, I have a song that is featuring, it's called Repent. It's a super funky, old school funk song, Break Your Neck, and it's called Repent. And another tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, girl, you're so fine the moment I saw you, I had to repent, right? and so the featured artist on this is Mackenzie Green, goes by Mackenzie. Okay. And he's the guy that has been singing lead with the Prince and the NPG tribute band. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've seen him, but
yeah, I know he is. Yeah,
he is. Yeah, this guy is one of the baddest singers I've ever heard. So he's being featured on the record. The whole record is features, it's feature after feature after feature of these remarkable artists that I met while I was in LA.
Did you record this in person, or was this during the pandemic and you're doing over the internet? How did you guys record?
So we've been working on this record for like nearly 3 years, from writing the songs to recording them and getting them all finished. And then there was like about a year delay there in putting it out because of the pandemic. But all of the band stuff we did all together before the pandemic. And then anything that, if you watch the videos, anything you see people together, that was pre-pandemic. And then some of the stuff that we did, some of the overdubs, like the Juan Luis Guerra overdub, and some of the others we did during the pandemic.
Okay.
But mostly like we were just mixing and like video editing and stuff during the pandemic.
Wow, that's just like back in the days, just what you described, being able to film it all and doing it, that was like no one was doing that. But now that's the thing you have to do. Like you do it all. It's just amazing.
And a lot of this was filmed on iPhones,
Yeah, so. And they look great. It's like somebody would have told us back then, man, you could have a phone that would damn near look like you could shoot movies on it. You'd be like, stop it. What are you talking about? Like, right. You're going to be doing your album like that. I'm telling you. Okay. Here we are.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah. Last one, just a fun question. And I don't know if you've ever thought about this, and I can't remember if I asked you this before, but I personally am a huge fan of like soundtracks, like John Williams and all of that type of stuff. I love like the newer guy, like even Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer, yeah.
It's just same. He has some
All
fascinating
these cats,
stuff.
man.
Yeah.
James Horner,
yes.
Yeah.
Even was it Junkie XL? I think he's dope too.
I like the cat that works with who's that cat that real quirky cat? Oh man, who does that? What was that Edward Scissorhands movie?
Oh, we're talking about
that director. He always works with that director.
Danny something.
Danny Elfman.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
That's my guy.
Yeah, he's dope.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah, he's dope. I always trip when on the Batman one when he throws a little bit of line of scandalous. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right. So with that said, all of that, if there was one movie that you saw, or I don't know, whatever it is, and it was like, Phillip, we want you to do the music on this joint. What would that movie be? Where that you add your horns and all that, it would be like, that would be the shit.
Ooh. Man, anything Tarantino.
Okay.
Okay. Anything I could just be really funky on. I just want to put some wah guitar on something,
I could see that. All right. Some Tarantino. Any Tarantino movie in particular? I just watched Jackie Brown the other day, matter of fact.
Oh man, I love the music on there already. So but man, probably Reservoir Dogs.
Okay.
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs was great. Jackie Brown was great. I like all of his films. I love the music on the Kill Bills too, man. It's crazy.
I have actually only watched bits and pieces of the first one. I need to sit down and watch both of those movies. That's one of those ones I know what it is.
They're fun. They're fun. It's a whole lot of excessive martial arts stuff that kind of maybe goes on a little too long. Okay. Yeah, it's maybe kind of overkill, pun intended. But it's still fun, man. And Uma Thurman, all the actors are great, of course. But maybe I love movies. I love blaxploitation movies too. All that stuff.
Really? What's some of your favorites?
Absolutely.
What's some of your favorites?
I just love all the music, man. That's what Jackie Brown kind of made me think of. It took me back to that. What's my man?
I think he did the Jackie Brown. Not Jackie Brown. I'm thinking of the original movie, Foxy Brown. What's that cat's name? He's a classic. He did the Mac. Ooh, I know I'm slipping that. Tip of my tongue too.
I don't know. But you know who else? Who else I like though? I really like Terrence Blanchard's work in film, man, with all the stuff he does with Spike Lee.
Yeah. One of the things I still play to this day is that.
Yes. Mo Better Blues.
Yeah, that's cold.
Yeah, man. I got to meet Terrence a few years ago, and we were at the same festival, playing the same festival, and we talked for hours, man. He's super cool.
I bet that was something.
Yeah. He's definitely one of my heroes.
Right
okay, I'll say it. Wynton Marsalis, man. I really want to meet. I don't necessarily want to play with him because he's on such a level. It's like, what do I have to say? But maybe he would like my playing on a good day. But I just like to be around him and just learn from him because I admire his commitment to music so much.
Yeah, and Willie Hutch is who I was trying to mention earlier. Look up Willie Hutch, but. Just to talk about Wynton Marsalis, he always reminds me of one, and I don't see that type of presence. He was that, and at the time, I guess he was that older musician dude that was so thorough that you had to come correct. I never met this person I'm just watching it from afar, but I was just like, yeah, you probably only want to really talk to dude unless you're really on your shit because he don't seem like he's playing around. And I like that. I like that type of energy. Sometimes when I think of Prince, I wonder if he was like, he might not have been like that, but he just seemed like, yo, he's so good and accomplished. Don't even go over there playing. Go practice and get your shit together first because he ain't got time. He going to tell you straight out if it's trash. and don't even, I like that though. I just think you kind of need to have people like that because it just elevates the game. Like you have to be on another level. Otherwise you're not ready. I feel like we're missing that sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody gets a prize. Everybody's in first place, right? Yeah. It's like, that's why I liked living in New York. I lived there for 2 years right before I met Prince. And, it did that for me. I say, New York will make a man out of you, It's like, they don't play, man. It's like, it's great or it's garbage. And it's like, yeah. It's a high expectation, high standards there, especially for like music and art and the arts and stuff, everything. Mm-hmm. It's like people, they strive.
Imagine if that was the driving factor today in music was the high standard. Like you can't even you can't even be seen by certain people, let alone get a deal unless you the shit. But let me stop.
Well, the first thing that's got to happen is like we got to get back to music education because if everybody, and I mean everybody, I hate to say like normal, the regular people. I hate to call anybody regular, but like the vast majority of society, let's say that, isn't somewhat educated on the beauty of music, beyond pop music. And pop music can be cool too. I'm not throwing shade on pop music, but there's more out there, than Burger King and McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? It's like this is this is something that's really missing from culture and society. It's just this depth, not just musically, but just in general, emotional depth, spiritual depth, musical depth, artistic depth, intellectual depth. This is the problem, and this is you don't hear about any like jazz musicians or classical musicians going out and like committing mass murder.
Right.
You know what I mean? When was the last time that happened? Like when was like the second trumpet player from the from the big band, you know what I mean? Showed up to the subway and executed 14 people today. That's the thing, man. You give people like you put beauty in their hearts and their lives, and you show them how beautiful the world can be through music and art and all these beautiful things that exist, then they'll be less likely to commit these atrocious acts. That's just my thoughts.
Now I know where you're coming from. I definitely understand what you're saying, and I think you hit it though. Just the depth of it is what. Not to say it's not out there, but it's not the driving force. It's not even being a secondary sort of option. Everything is just surface level. It feels good in the moment. Boom, on to the next thing. But that spiritual part about it, that just when I was listening to Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, just last night, just kind of I was vibing through different music, and I was just like, this is so like, I just sit down, and I'm just like, I gotta sit down and just feel this, like,
it's so gratifying.
I mean? Yeah, it's just like, God, you forget that this is music. I was like, damn, this was our shit. Like,
more people were in band and in choir and in the wind symphony and in the orchestra back then. The musical. So think about it, man. It's like not that everybody needs to go out and have a career in music, but if the people who are listening to, jazz and forms that are, have elements of jazz in them, the kind of people that would appreciate my records or even appreciate Prince at this point are people who had some kind of connection with music on a higher level than just listening to, the radio.
Right.
So, and,
Yeah, we're going to wrap this up, but I just thought of something I wanted to ask you too, because I know there's a new Prince release coming out, Welcome to America. And I was trying to remember, are you on any of that stuff? Do you know?
I'm not sure. But I know we spent a couple of days recording in Studio A, and one of the songs that did come out was the last song on the last Prince record. So phase 2, the last song is Big City.
Oh, yeah.
And so I did the arrangement on that, and that's the 11-piece horn section. So that's the only record that I know of that I'm on that's Prince related. But we did record some other stuff in those 2 days. That was a wild session too, man. The whole rhythm section was the late John Blackwell, Cassandra O'Neill on keys, Mike Scott on guitar, and Andrew Goucher on bass. And like I said, John Blackwell on drums, and then the whole 11-piece horn section all together in Studio A, cutting to tape on his vintage custom SSL console, and Prince is standing behind the console directing us in real time while we're cutting the tape. Like, go to the chorus. Okay, go to the verse. Phil, solo.
Wow.
Just about lost it. And so that was just an amazing day. And we recorded our version of Mutiny, which we performed on the Arsenio Hall show.
Okay.
And I had this feature, that I wrote, and we recorded that. I played a solo, I remember, and then but I never heard it after that. And I think it's still in the vault. So it'll be interesting if that ever. I really want to hear that at some point. I don't know if that made this particular record. I want to say it did not, but because I feel like I would have heard about it. Okay. But maybe one day.
I'm sure there's so much there. Yeah, man. Listen, Phillip, thank you again for this great conversation. We are looking forward to the new album. Again, where can people, aside from going on the streaming services, where can they find it if they want to buy it directly from you?
I think Bandcamp is the best way, especially if they want to get it, get a physical copy. If they want to download it, there's Apple Music and Tidal is really good, and all of the streaming services where they can download it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, sir. Well, once again, what's the website? What's your website?
My website is PhillipLassitermusic.com. It's 1 L in Phillip, 2 S's in LassiterMusic.com. I'm on all the socials, Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and too many of TikTok. I'm on too many of them. I'm too old for TikTok.
Okay.
I'm too old for TikTok, but I'm on there. I'm TikToking around.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, all right, man. Listen, thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, please go out and support Phillip. Grab this new album. We're definitely going to be checking out these songs. And you always know where to find us, podcastjuice.net. With that, my name is Michael Dean. Work it like a job. We'll see you next time. Peace.